Gentlemen, working on a customer's machine, cleaning up real nice. And so many of you will either have this machine or be very familiar with the family. We're dealing with a cable. It's the ignition cable, or they may call it the zone control or engine bail. I call it the ignition brake / cable, right? The go cable. Pull the handle back, and you pull the starter rope and it goes. Let go of the handle, it shuts off, and it operates the brake and the switch. Now this is the Gold series, and some of you may have the Platinum or the Silver edition. And you know, some of these machines may have on the upper tier. They're usually front wheel drive, but sometimes I've found this, by the way, this system on rear drive. You may have electric start. And for those of you that maybe want to fix your own cable and maybe find a machine like a garage sale or something, or you're doing this for yourself, if you look at the cable that I'm holding in my hand, and you're going to notice a couple of features. And what's common is what really upsets the whole thing is the bag door, the bag assist. And that's something that changes the length of the cable, where the cable goes in, the kind of cables that you're going to use. And now one of the cables, which is, let's see if I can follow it back, so they're kind of locked into each other up here, and one of the cables is kind of like a service cable. It plugs in, and I follow it down real quick. It's just the bag door one that has the usual Z bend or Z bend. The other cable, that's the ignition cable, has the loop. Yeah, so you get the hook and loop. And of course, that's a completely different cable, right? And they're usually, most often, sold together because they kind of go together, and they break at the same time, they get jammed up. And as I mentioned to the customer, I said, you know what, I'm going to simplify this. At this point, long been since it was a top tier machine, and he didn't even consider this machine to be even like super top tier. But it's up there, right? You know, many of us know that this is a very nice machine. Now I'm going to show you guys what I do with a very simple cable, any cable that you can get on Amazon. We're going to go talk about a little bit about the dimensions and everything as I speak. I have a number here, but I will take a picture of it and I'll put it somewhere in the video so that you can see the numbers. But and by the way, this one's a really nice one. I don't know the manufacturers. I don't pay much attention to it anymore. I get them from different places. They're almost all the same value and same quality. The average price is, now everything is going up, but anyway between $6 and $10. And if you have like an Amazon Prime account or something, you could probably get it to your door in a couple of days for about $10 for now. All right, things are changing in the world. We're trying to do everything on a budget because prices are going up and availability is going down. So that means we need some other solutions. Now, I started a video recently on how to keep the sheath but recable it with some nice, stainless steel aircraft cable. Let's go dig in. I want to show you the layout, and I'll give you guys some dimensions, and just kind of want to show you how I mark this off and what I do to get it set up right. So that it's super simple, it's super easy. All you need is a drill and a few drill bits. Let's get started. Now, as many of you guys know, I'm a clean freak. Pretty much when I do a machine, it's always the same. I take the top off, I take the pull start off, I give everything a clean. And that's because every tune-up of mine or every service really includes this, because these machines live about 2 feet off the ground in the muck and the mire, and they're going to all present the same way with the same kind of problems. They're oil and air cooled, obviously oil lubricated, but that oil has got to come up against the engine and the fins and everything, and that air has to be blown over it. And that's the transfer medium as well, to get the heat out of the engine. So you want to start off with something that's really clean, especially in here. This is an automatic choke. This was bent down a bit. This is your switch mechanism and your brake mechanism. So I always pull this back and I shove a big screwdriver in here until it really has gone all the way forward. Forward towards the front, okay? Disengaging the brake and pulling this lock tab really far out of the way. Now let me put a little light on. I'm just going to kind of get you in a little closer on that so you can see. So you can see how far back it's been pulled. And see, this is the tang, right, that engages here. And when it lifts up on this, okay, once it starts to lift up, and I'll show it to you again in a little bit, like that's what grounds out the ignition system. I'm hoping I'm getting that in there for you. Once those meet together and it lifts up on this tang, and they're grounded, and the coil shuts off. At the same time, the brake goes in, stops the spinning of the flywheel. There's your safety. All right, so we want to make sure that this is as far back as we can get it. All right, we want to do this once. So that'll be as far back as I can get it right now. We're going to leave it there. Now let's take a look at the length. All right, so if you can see here, I'm going to start off with the sheath. That's the outer covering. So we're pretty much lined up here. Let's just follow that ruler down, and you'll see that I'm ending up at 46 inches. Now, if you can't see it well because of the glare, I'm sorry, but it's 46 inches to the end here. And so I'm going to read it. If you can't see it, I'm not going to try to set the shop up for that. There's going to be glare in here right now. I'm working, and I'm not that concerned about the video quality as much. Now I'm going to measure the total length of, like end to end. This is about 45 inches, and I'm not going to the tip here. I'm going to like the point that goes in of the Z bend that goes into a loop or the bail or the handle. So that's, what do we have here? 54 inches, right? So we got 54, and we're over here. So that's kind of more on the tip. So let's just push it back a little bit. I'm going to give you a few measurements. You want to be within this. Yeah, it's still basically 54, right? Give or take a little bit. All right, so that's the length of the cable that we're working with. All right, so I've lubricated the cable on both sides, a little bit of white lube, and shoved it in there. You can put more cable lube in there if you want. Now's your time to do it. All right, so let's just make sure that we've got this part of the cable in. Now, over here, there's an area over here. I'm just going to pass it through this little loop, because we really want to try to get the correct distances and everything. Snap that in. Let's go up top, towards the top of the handle, and I'll show you what I'm doing there. I'm going to try to show you guys a few different angles with the cameras, and I'll put them together, because no matter what I do, right, I'm going to be in your way, because this is just kind of a complicated thing to shoot. So what I've done is, now we've got that set up on the engine, and the next step here is to make our mark as to where we're going to put this cable. Now, unfortunately, on this setup, right, we have some room to do that. So what we're going to do, and what I've done is I've just pulled this handle back. And if you notice, and I'll get a closer shot of it, I've left this handle stick up a little bit. If you want, I'll take a measurement for you, just as a rough, but we'll get a little bit closer. And then I've laid this on there, and I've put a mark all the way down around here. We're going to drill this. I got to tap it first, center tap it with something to get it started, a little awl or something like that, or a nail if you don't have a center punch. A small drill, and then I'm going to move up to the letter K. I'll get you a measurement on the letter K in a minute. Let me grab a ruler, and I'm just going to give you a guesstimate as to about what that is up there, and we'll get a better shot of this. All right, just a little closer view, all right, so you can see how I'm sticking this up a little bit. I can't use the original hole because the cable, like, no cable fits that other than the factory cable. That hole is specifically for that one cable, and that one cable can be about $60 or a little bit more, depending on where you get it from. So that's a consideration. Let's get ready to drill. Now, of course, I used to have an automatic center punch, and that would have worked great for here. Is this going to be sharp enough? But I don't have that. I don't know where it is. Just a quick punch. Now a challenge is going to be, all right, to drill through and keep it straight so that it winds up equidistant. Now you could put a mark on the other side, right? We may want to do that. Use a square, but generally, if I just hold everything straight, Right, we have a little bit of leeway. The K drill is a little bit bigger than a 1/4 inch without being too big. So we got a little bit of room. I think blammo through this. Try not to damage any of my cabling. Oh, she's sharp. Take some kind of a countersink. A little high on this side. Now, typically I like to drill from the inside because that measurement's more important. So this is a little bit borked. So I'm going to take my step drill and just massage it a little bit. All right, because we're going to make this side a little bit bigger. We should be able to poke that through, kind of get it to line up. It's a little bit off. Well, we need to massage it. So let me massage that. The straighter you make it, right, the easier time you'll have of getting it engaged. Let me just fuss with that. Okay, I just took my step bit and drove it in a little bit just to, you know, a little fudge factor. I don't use a step bit to drill it because if I go too far, I don't have enough room left, right, to really make it successful. Now, you see the dimpling here. You can dimple it, but you'd have to take the handle off. The only way I found to really dimple it well is with a ball peen hammer, and you got to back it by something and you got to knock it. And you could do it from both sides, but this usually does a pretty good job. I'll probably put a little tie wrap right here, right, and I'll be fine. And everything else looks good. So I just want to show you guys it in action. It pulls nice, and we'll go down there and we'll take a look at the whole engagement. It feels nice. All right, now we can see that it's engaged. Now let's pull back, and you can see just how far it pulls. That those two contacts pull away from each other, right? And now it's off and on, so that's perfect. And even if the cable stretches a little, it'll be fine. All right, and again, with the handle pulled back with a bit of Velcro, right, we follow it down. And you can see just how far back that lock has been pulled. And we will have no problems with that.
I am Cornholio.
Now this technique is useful on really any configuration that you may have, any lawnmower. I do this quite often. I take a number of different cables, including the newest type cable, which I'll show you in a minute. It is the common cable. It's got a little hook on it, and it's what you find in a lot of the MTD machines. It's got a very long lead, very cheap. I'll often replace with that kind of cable. Let me show you that cable. This cable's very short, and its real claim to fame is this hook here. So, different mount altogether, and then of course it winds up having a very, very long lead. And let's see if I can show you that. It's very short in terms of length. It winds up somewhere kind of looking like this. Now there is a different cable as well, and all of these cables set up, fellas, on the left hand side, the driver's side. The older machines use a longer cable, and that sets up on the passenger side, the right side, and that uses a longer cable. That is different. You may want to check out my other video that I have on it's a black Craftsman that I did, and what I wound up doing is I recabled the machine, both the drive cable and the ignition cable, but I wound up installing, I was able to keep the correct sheath because the sheath was in good shape, the outer part. But I relined the inside with the aircraft stainless steel cable, and I'll put a link for that down in the description. Okay, so I got just a few, going to organize a little bit more, nice and straight up to the top, and it looks good. I'm going to test the machine in a minute. And everything comes down nice. Here we go. All right, it's automatic choke. That's it. Cable works good. Now, as I'm sure many of you know that maybe follow the channel, I like Craftsman machines. They come in a lot of flavors and colors and sizes, and they made changes to them over the years, so it can get you a bit crazy. I was talking about sometimes the cable is on this side, sometimes the cable is on that side, sometimes it has a bag door, sometimes it's the longer cable because it comes over here. The newest, you know, they were, I don't know how many manufacturers there were, MTD, Yard machines, Yard products, whatever. I don't really care, right? Because at this point, generally speaking, I'm looking for the older ones. This vintage, maybe a little newer, maybe a little older. I really like to repair them, service them, keep them going, you know, out there in the yard. And I've got tons of them. I like the black ones. I like the red ones. They're the easiest to repaint and kind of get going. I certainly like the standard Briggs engines, you know, flatheads. So hopefully this was helpful to you guys. This is just one kind of cable solution. Of course, if you want to spend the money, you know, you can get the correct factory cable. Keep in mind that I'm doing this on a budget, right? Everything is budget today. And as I was talking to my customer, I said, look, I sold him another machine, I think as a one of my rental machines. I don't rent them. They're very inexpensive, and I find a lot of people that are either renting or people that are renting to somebody and they need a machine to just cut the lawn. Something very simple, very inexpensive. It's going to be left there. It could be abused. And those have similar problems. If they're Craftsmans or whatever, they're cable issues. And especially with those, because the machines are so inexpensive, as I sell them, we can't be buying $60 cables or sometimes even a $10 or $20 cable. I don't want to buy it. I will modify as best I can. You might say, oh, but it takes you time to do that. Yes, it does, right? It's always a trade-off, guys, but I get quicker at it. Filming it slowed it down. I would have had it done a lot quicker, but I wanted to show you guys what I do in the process. And again, just one solution, something simple that you can do to maybe get your machine going. And I want to reiterate, this was on a budget, so I had a number of other things to do. And I said to him, I said, let's say, you know, you bought the correct cable, original equipment style, it's like $60. I said, now what? I still got to fix the rest of the machine, right? And it needed service. So something to think about. I will see you guys on the next one. And I was happy to do this for the fellow. It came out really nice. This is why I do it, right? It's part hobby and it's part money. And when they come out like this, which they generally do, but I pick my jobs. And again, this one I really kind of don't do just repair and just I clean the carburetor and shove it down the road. I won't do that. I'll see you guys in the next one.